Ooh, I'm gonna save this rant for another video, but despite what your active duty recruiter is telling you and all the other plethora of lies that active duty recruiters do to or say to their potential applicant to sway them from even checking out the National Guard, you can in fact transfer from one state to the next. The fact of the matter is you are a full-time citizen and a part-time soldier, hence the name that the Army National Guard has coined as citizen soldier. With that being said, you are allowed to transfer from one state to the next for any reason at all. And you will do so by requesting an IST or an interstate transfer from one state to the next. So stay tuned. Here we go! What's up, everybody? Welcome back here to TEAMSWARTZ, and if this is your first time here, welcome to my channel. Here I post a ton of Army basic training tips, recruiting, and other Army-related videos, to include going live weekly to address your most desired questions and concerns, typically on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Lewis, your local New York Army National Guard's full-time recruiter and part-time drill sergeant out of New York City. And with that being said, on my free time, I come on here to create content around you to help you make a well-informed decision throughout the enlistment process into the Army as a whole, and to prepare yourselves both mentally and physically for Army basic training. So this video will serve to you as an IST or interstate transfer guide with insights on the process of what you need to do and what you should expect throughout the whole ordeal. Regulations, policies, and guidelines are forever changing, but for you, I went above and beyond and included an excerpt of the regulation NGR 600-200, including chapters 4-18, pages 26 through 29, in reference to the IST and what I will be covering and breaking down for you in this video. Be sure to check it out and read it for yourself word for word, because some units like to flex their muscles and tell you blah blah blah, and it really means nah nah nah. So be in the know, do yourself due diligence, and read the regulation. Each state has its own IST coordinator that is there to facilitate your request and execute it as painlessly as possible. So prior to 2020 and before IPSA took over and converged the active duty Army, Army Reserve, and Army National Guard all into one platform, IPSA has streamlined everything, making things a heck of a lot easier and efficient, okay? Now, before that, it was a broken system at best, and it made things very, very challenging and difficult at times for certain soldiers to execute their interstate transfer from one state to the next. But it is now a heck of a lot better. So for all intents and purposes, the state that you will be leaving will be referred to as the losing state, and the state that you will be moving to will be referred to as the gaining state. So because all 54 states and U.S. territories has its own National Guard, you will be ultimately discharged from the losing state and reassessed or re-enlist into the gaining state simultaneously. You will not execute a conditional release using the form DD Form 368. That's in accordance with this regulation. Again, that's in the downloadable link in the description for you to read and understand yourself. Do not let your unit commander or anyone in your unit tell you that your request to IST to another state is denied. They cannot, technically they can deny it, but they still have to shoot up your IST workflow up through the proper channels. Only the G1, because your request is gonna go all the way up to the G1, and they cannot delegate that power of authority to decide whether it's going to be approved or disapproved. Your unit commander can deny it, yes, but they have to justify it and still shoot your request up to the G1's office to be reviewed and denied or approved. And it's got to be for a super compelling reason. And because you are a full-time citizen, they cannot prevent you from moving to another state. This whole thing was created to retain as many soldiers as possible. So the state will release you to go to your other state, regardless of what your unit commander says. But before we get into that, first things first. When can I request an IST, and do I need an exact address before requesting it? As you will read, you do not need an exact address. You just need a general area or a region of the state that you plan on going to for whatever your reasons are. But to have an exact address makes it that much easier to find a unit within a reasonable travel distance to your new future home of record, whether that has been identified now or you know that you're moving, you just haven't found a new place yet. You will need to know when you are leaving and approximately where you will be moving to at the minimum. It is in your best interest that once you make up that decision or whatever happens, the earlier you identify that you need an interstate transfer to the other state, notify your chain of command as soon as possible and contact your IST coordinator so that we can execute this in a timely fashion. Now, obviously situations dictate, but sometimes you gotta leave before all this can be taken care of before you leave. It'll still get done, but the earlier you identify and execute this IST request, the easier and smoother your transition will be. So try not to wait until the last minute to execute this IST request. How long does it take to complete an IST from start to finish? The goal and the intent is to complete your IST request within 90 to 120 days or less, with, if everything, all your ducks in a row and there are no issues that causes delays, you could be transferred and all that good stuff and finalized within 45 to 60 days. Some things that may slow down your process is if you have inaccurate paperwork, maybe your NGB, National Guard Bureau Form 22-5 is incorrect or inaccurate or what have you. People are on leave throughout those different channels that your IST workflow has to go through and all that good stuff. As long as there's no delays in that way, it'll be much smoother and faster for you. NGB Form 22-5 is your addendum to your DD Form 4, approval and acceptance by the service representative for IST or interstate transfer in the Army National Guard. That is your most important document that you need to complete, or in your best interest complete, before even sending it to a unit. But we'll get to that in a second. What do I need to do and what should I expect when requesting an IST? First things first, know when and where you are going to. Inform your unit as soon as possible via email. Create that digital footprint. I suggest that you send it directly to your unit readiness NCO and your administrative assistant. CC your company commander, your first sergeant, your platoon leader, your platoon sergeant, your squad leader, and possibly your team leader, depending on how your unit is set up. Include in that email your NGB 22-5 completed to the best of your ability. Immediately after you hit that send button for the email, immediately send a text message to your platoon sergeant, your squad leader, and your team leader that you sent an email directly to the unit leadership with your IST request. You will be moving to another state. At this point, right after you shoot that text message or phone call to your unit leadership, I would definitely reach out to the IST coordinator for your state to begin the process. They will help facilitate the communication and dialogue between the IST coordinator and your unit and ensure that they are doing everything that they're supposed to do in accordance with the guidelines set forth in the regulation. So this is where the new IPSA comes in clutch. Your unit's responsibility is to create and submit your IST workflow into IPSA in the RMS IST module. RMS is the retention management software module where they'll input, and it's specifically designed for ISTs. It streamlines the entire process and makes everything completely visible for everyone that's involved in that chain of command. At this point, when it makes sense, depending on when you're leaving to your new state, you will coordinate and schedule your CIF gear turn-in, because you're going to be going to a new state and leaving that state National Guard into a new state National Guard. Then you got to identify preferably an exact address, but at the very least the region in the state that you plan on moving to, so that the IST coordinator can do their very best to find a unit within a 50-mile radius of your new home of record or perceived region that you are planning to move to. If it's not within 50 miles, they're going to do their very best to find you a unit within a reasonable travel distance, or a distance that you are comfortable with or agree to travel on a monthly basis to conduct your drills. While you're still in the losing state, until you actually move to your gaining state, it is your responsibility to conduct your drills prior to leaving, whether that is in the form of a SUTA or actually attending your weekend drill with your assigned unit before you're actually transferred to the gaining state. If you move to the other state prior to your IST being completed and executed, you will drill with a local unit nearest your new home of record until it is complete. Do not let your company commander of your losing state or unit tell you that you have to travel back to your losing state unit of assignment to conduct your drills, okay? If it doesn't make sense and it's too much of a financial burden for you to go back and forth, you have the ability to knock out a SUTA with a local unit in lieu of your assigned drill with your losing state. Unless it makes sense and the company commander can justify it that it's in the best interest of the National Guard for your state, which I can't think of any good enough reason, but you can knock out a SUTA in lieu of that drill with your old unit. So a SUTA stands for Split Unit Training Assembly, which means it's like a makeup drill. So it's in lieu of your drill with your regular assigned unit back in the losing state, right? So you conduct drill with a local unit. They verify that you in fact completed a drill by completing a SUTA certificate saying that on these dates here you conducted your drill work or what have you, and they email that back to your losing state so that they can give you credit so you get paid, earn your retirement points, and remain in good standing with the Army National Guard so you don't have a bad year or take the risk of being discharged for unsat or unsatisfactory drill participation. Again, regardless of what your company commander or unit says in the losing state, you are authorized to do a SUTA with a local unit in accordance with NGR 600-200, black and white, read it for yourself. So in case your unit wants to play FF games, you can be like negative, obviously respectfully and tactfully, in accordance with NGR 600-200, chapter 4-18, pages blah, 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 right? Cite the reference. I'm authorized to do a SUTA. It is a financial hardship for me to travel from one state to the other to conduct your drill. I am going to do drill here in the gaining state in lieu of my drill with you. Respectfully and tactfully, of course. The goal of your IST request should be completed within 120 days in accordance with regulation. In most cases, it's between 45 to 60 days. If for some reason you're moving to a state where the nearest unit is like dumb F, super long distance, or they can't find a vacancy or get an approval to put you into an excess slot in a local unit nearest you, you can opt to go into the IRR, or the Inactive Readiness Reserve, or the Army National Guard's ING, which is the Inactive National Guard, for up to 12 months until you can figure things out and execute, right? Or be processed for discharge. So hopefully within those 12 months, you can find a unit that is within a reasonable distance or a vacancy or get approval for excess. But again, worst case scenario, you'll just have to get discharged. Not negatively, of course, but it is what it is. The IST module within IPSA is designed to streamline and make it as painless as possible and make it a universal way, the same across the board, no matter which state you go to help retain as many soldiers as possible, and not just losing soldiers for the hell of it, because, you know, like I said, it was a broken system prior to this. Once the IST is complete, how long do you have before you have to report to your new unit? Once your IST has been approved and completed, you have 30 days or less to report to your new unit of assignment. Make sure that you are there at the next drill. At this point, hopefully you're already in communication with the gaining state new leadership with the unit that you're going to be assigned to, and you're probably already conducting SUTAs in the meantime. If you fail to report to your unit within 30 days and or your gaining state and losing state is unable to get in contact with you in any shape, form, or fashion, unable to communicate with you, your IST will be revoked and you will be discharged with a reenlistment code of a 3. And understand that you're not going to get an honorable discharge or a dishonorable discharge, but you could face a general discharge under honorable conditions or an uncharacterized discharge under honorable conditions. So what are some restrictions that could prevent an approval for your IST request? So here are some scenarios that you could find yourself where even if you move to another state, if you fall in this category, your IST is going to be denied and you're going to be more than likely just processed for discharge. If you're currently on a medical board for review to decide whether they're going to retain you or to be discharged, you're not going to be able to submit an IST request to a new state. Those of you that have been flagged for height and weight failure in accordance with AR 600-9, you are not authorized an IST request, but a waiver can be entertained. If your ETS date is within a 4-month window of your current ETS date, you will not be allowed to request an IST unless you are re-enlisting on or before the effective date of your IST. That part of the regulation is kind of a little vague, but you can read it yourself. So if you have 9 mutas of unexcused absences, aka being AWOL on drill weekend, which is equivalent to 4 days and a morning, right? Because each day of drill is 2 mutas, right? So 4 days and a morning, that's 9 mutas or more of unexcused absences, you're not going to be able to request an IST, but your gaining state can entertain a waiver. For those of you that have a PT failure, either through the old APFT or through the future ACFT when it becomes for record, depending on when you watch this video, you're not going to be allowed to request an IST, but the gaining state can entertain a waiver as well. And those who are enrolled into a substance abuse program, unfortunately, it's not going to be an option for you. It is what it is. Just don't do drugs. I cannot tell you this enough. It is your responsibility to know what your rights are, and in doing so, I suggest, strongly implore you to do your own research and to read it yourself in the regulation. NGR 600-200, Chapter 4-18, pages 26 through 29. That being said, if you are in the New York Army National Guard looking to conduct your very own IST, down in the description area I will put the point of contact to the New York Army National Guard's assigned IST coordinator, name, address, phone number, and email so that you can bounce your questions and or concerns at your leisure. With that being said, like this video, smash it if that you're something into, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.